Okay, so we've been talking about linear equations, and we've talked about three different forms of linear equations. So I'm just going to write a couple examples of linear equations. So this first one is in what we call standard form, and then the second one would be an example of one that would be in point-slope form. And then the last one would be an example of slope-intercept form. And what you're going to notice about all three of the forms that we've talked about is that in every equation, there's two variables, an x and a y, in some location, okay? However, there are some special kinds of lines, special kinds of linear equations that do not have two variables in them. And those are horizontal and vertical lines. And so what you're going to see over here is a page that you're going to have in your notes next week when I give you these. But what you're going to see is an acronym for each one of these type of lines. Okay, so if you look over here, you can see it says y equals a number, and you see a horizontal line. If you are presented with an equation that has y equals and then some number, I'll just put in a 5, for example, that is representative of a horizontal line. And the word we're going to use to talk about what's unique about a horizontal line is the word HOI. And we'll talk about what that acronym stands for on the next page in just a minute. And then if you see an equation that has only an x in it, that represents a vertical line. And so you're going to see here where it says x equals a number, there's a vertical line pointing down. That is going to be representative of the word VUX. And the V and the U and the X, and then the same thing on HOI, H-O-Y, they stand for things. And so we're going to talk on the next page what those stand for. But what I want to get you accustomed to recognizing is anytime that you see anything like these, those are still linear equations. It just means that all of the y values are 5 and all of the x values are -4. Okay, so in each one of these instances, it still forms a line. We just don't have an x and a y. And then we're going to do something with this little booklet as well. So let's talk about what happens with HOI and VUX. So if you were to flip these up, you can see I kind of have a mirror image. This is what it would look like if I were to unfold them, okay? So let's talk about HOI first. So I mentioned to you that if an equation has only a y in it, that represents a horizontal line. The H stands for horizontal. So the line, if it has a y equals in it and only a y, the line will be horizontal. So we're going to write horizontal here. Now the O in HOI, the middle letter of both of these words tells us something about the slope of vertical and horizontal lines. So horizontal lines, I'm going to write horizontal again in this first blank. What is unique about the slopes of horizontal lines? Horizontal lines have 0 slope. If you remember on the page we talked about finding the slope, I had the little Christmas tree. And remember we talked about going up is positive and going down is negative, but we said going horizontally has 0 slope. Horizontal lines have a 0 slope. So the O in HOI stands for 0, and it's representative of the slope. The Y it just basically coincides with the fact that we have y equals something as the equation of the line. So the equation of the line, if you see just a y, the word that has HOI in it, or the word that has a y in it is HOI. So that means that this is going to be a horizontal line and it will cross the y-axis. Okay, so for example, if this was my coordinate plane and it was y equals -4, I would go to -4 on the y-axis and draw a horizontal line through that place where it touches the y-axis. Okay, so horizontal line H, 0 slope O, y-axis Y. Okay, that's going to help you recognize and understand what the letters in HOI represent. Okay, now let's do the same thing for VUX, because VUX is vertical. So the V stands for vertical. So if it has just an x in the equation, like x equals 5, That is going to be a vertical line. Vertical lines, if you remember our Christmas tree, positive, negative, 0. The vertical line represents an undefined slope. Sorry, I'm writing sideways. So vertical lines, the U in VUX represents undefined. Vertical lines have undefined slopes. Now let me do one more thing here. Let me go back up. Let's talk about the slope of Hoy and VUX for a minute. So horizontal lines have a 0 slope. Let's say you didn't have a graph, okay? Let's say you were presented with 2 points and you had to use slope formula to find the slope. If you do the slope formula, remember slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. If you do that formula and the numerator has a 0 in it, 0 on top is okay. Okay, so I'm going to put a 0, like in the word okay, I'm going to put the O on top. 0 divided by anything is just 0. And the moment that you have a 0 in the numerator, you know this is a horizontal line because it's going to have a 0 slope. However, if the line is vertical and you didn't know that, but you did the slope formula, and when you did the slope formula, you arrived at an answer that was like this, that's not a solution of 0, okay? You can't divide by 0. 3 divided by 0 is undefined. So if the 0 is on the bottom, we're going to put an N on top just to give us a little trick. No, that is not okay. If a 0 is underneath, no, it's not okay, and that is considered an undefined slope because you can't divide by 0. Okay, so this okay and this no just really helps us place where the 0 is whenever we have a Hoy and a VUX, okay? And then the last letter in VUX is an X, and that represents the type of equation we have. It's an X equation, right? And it also represents where it crosses. It crosses the X-axis. So for example, if this was my coordinate plane, x equals 5 would touch the x-axis at 5, and I would just draw a vertical line through that x-axis. So Hoy and VUX are going to be used frequently whenever we have an equation that only has an x or only has a y. If you see an equation that has only an x or only a y, that is your clue that you are dealing with either horizontal or vertical lines. They're not sloped like the other lines that we've been talking about so far. Now we're going to do some examples in that little booklet in the next video, but I wanted to give you at least an idea of understanding what those words Hoy and VUX represent.